And we're on.
And we're live.
And here we are, kids.
And we're back with Loose in the Nook.
Yay! Can I get your WLTL voice?
Yeah, it's mostly my normal voice, but I think since I was in high school, I pitched it down a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Let's hear it. Here we go.
So it's just, you're listening to WLTL 88.1 FM LaGrange, where everything else is just radio. And then, like, the Strokes would play.
That's right, the tag was where everything else is just radio.
At the time, yeah.
And what does that mean?
Everything else is just radio. We're better than everything else because everything else is just radio. We're providing you more of an experience than just radio, like everyone else is.
With that voice, you definitely are.
I was put on the shitty slot of Sunday midday, like Sunday noon.
Yeah.
And I was on the air for 2 years, and my first. I think both of them were actually with my brother, with Garrett.
Yeah.
And we were the prior double hour of power.
I gotta
and
go. I'm ending this now.
And for a while, I think we were like talking about like getting a theme song to play. But like we would talk about like comics and music and a bunch of like nerd shit, which was very on brand. But I never auditioned well enough, I think, because I was kind of still really awkward freshman, sophomore year. I didn't find my voice. So that was my radio voice.
That was beautiful.
It was WLTL 88.1 FM, LaGrange. And I've been meaning to go back because every winter break they like invite alumni back to be like, oh, have your own show.
Cute.
And I'm like, that'd be pretty fucking cool. But like, I'd be worried that I'd swear and then...
you get canceled.
Well, like the government would come and be like, yo. Or like I would just have to hit the dump button like every time I turn on the mic.
It would be a very very long process for you.
Yeah, just super hard cuts.
I definitely think you should go back. You could promote our show here.
Yeah, I would be like, you're listening to WTL 80.1 FM LaGrange is sponsored by What Do You Know with Nick and Devin.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Devin.
Beautiful.
Wow, what a beautiful segue intro.
Honestly, and the eye contact was on point.
I am sweating how beautiful it was.
To make sure that we got that down exactly. Thank you.
So this is our podcast where we we teach things to each other of an idea. Fuck, what is it?
And say ridiculous things. A lot of bloopers that we will keep in the show.
All right, so our podcast is What Do You Know with Nick and Devin.
That is correct.
I'm Devin.
I'm Nick.
Great, we got that done.
Perfect.
And this is a podcast where we come up with new topics each week to teach each other about.
Yes.
There's our line. It's usually a topic that the other person most likely doesn't know about, but I have a feeling you are fairly familiar with the topic that I am going to discuss with you today.
It's very trusting of you.
Well, it is none other than Carl Jeppson's Malort.
Disgusting.
So this is my current bottle. It's almost out. Ritually, a shot is taken every Friday.
Every Friday?
Almost.
To like cleanse the body?
Yeah, well, it's usually to like help me settle myself, get rid of the long week, shake out all them demons. But don't worry, we have a full bottle as well.
Oh, well, thank God, ladies and gentlemen.
And God. Plenty of old style as well to wash it down with. So that being said, I'm actually going to pour a little bit into the fanciest glass you probably ever had.
Oh, yeah.
Malort poured into.
Look at that beautiful
these
pseudo are snifter.
Yeah, these are definitely like whiskey sniffing, sifting, drinking glasses.
And that's a technical term.
The technical term.
Can you pass me that whiskey sniffing, sipping glass?
Sipping, sniffing, sifting glass.
This is just looking at it is. Oh God.
Well,
I don't know the last time I had Malort.
Really?
Yeah, but great pairing with the old style, by the way.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things that I have in my notes is that a shot of Malort and a pint of old style, can of old style, whatever, is a Chicago handshake. So it is a version of.
I'll be taking that one.
No, I was going to add a little bit more. Don't worry.
No, it's fine.
No? Okay.
This is a beautiful amount. Cheers, ladies and gentlemen.
It is a version of a Boilermaker.
Yeah.
And a Boilermaker, for those of you who don't know, is just like a beer in a shot.
Now, in a Boilermaker, is it traditional to drop the shot in or like mix it in, or is it just on the side?
It depends.
Okay.
I think it's more of a regional thing.
Got it.
Because most people will call just like having a shot in a beer in a shot.
Sure.
You can see that on your menu. But other people will call Boilermaker where you drop the shot in your pint.
Mm-hmm.
They could call that a depth charge, which is very interesting.
Okay.
But I think that might be a regional thing, because then there's also the Irish car bomb where you drop the shot into your Guinness.
Of course.
Sake bomb and all that other stuff.
Right.
I prefer it on the side.
Yeah.
I'm always afraid that it's just going to chip my tooth. I'm like, well, this wasn't worth it.
100%.
Can I have a little ice and some more Baileys in the shot glass to hold my teeth?
Thank you. Yeah, I was introduced to Malort way back in the day, and it's disgusting. It tastes like gasoline.
Do you remember your first time drinking it?
I think it was when in like 2013, 2014. So like coming back into the city.
Right.
I worked at a restaurant in the South Loop. And that was the first time like we had went out and everyone's like, oh, ho, 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 you have to try this. Because that's like, if you're from Chicago and like someone isn't or has never had it before, it's like the thing to do.
And you were working in the industry as well.
Right, correct. And obviously very prominent in the industry. That was, I think, the first time I had it. I also drank it kind of a lot when I worked for this pizza place in Wrigley. Mm-hmm. And we were degenerates. We would drink until like degenerate. It was called Demos. We would drink until like 8 a.m. On like a Tuesday. And I'd be like, all right, everyone, see you at 5. I'm going to go pass the fuck out on my couch. And so I think that was the last time I had it. When my brother, my dad, and I will go to a different baseball park every summer.
Yeah.
And so one time we did like a stay home and went to a Cubs game and stuff like that. And I think I had them do it then, the Chicago handshake and all of that. So I'm familiar. I think it's still gross.
Okay.
When I worked at the roastery, Starbucks roastery in Chicago, we had a drink called the Boilermaker.
Yeah.
And so it was Malort included, but it also had like grapefruit in it.
Yes.
Which helps some of the kind of bitterness of Malort and that gasoline taste really kind of like take it.
So you're on that end of the Malort flavor profile.
People who are like, I love to just like sip Malort over ice, go fuck yourself. Like, it cannot be possible. It's one of you, isn't it?
Can I tell you a secret?
Jesus Christ.
I've only done it once.
You're telling me you actually enjoy the taste. Like, you sit down and you go,
Malort. No, I mean, it certainly doesn't provide me as a refreshing feeling as like having a sip of beer or like enjoying a nice bourbon. But I was just curious because like if you're sipping bourbon, you know, like a little bit of water, a little bit of ice can affect the flavor profile of the bourbon. That brings out different bouquets, flavor notes, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what does it do with Malort? Let's find out. So I actually had some ice in this exact glass.
And?
It was okay. I mean, like, it definitely mellowed out the flavor just because it just got so cold. I put in like several rocks. It wasn't just like one little ice cube hanging out. It was just like, that's just watery Malort. Dip my glass in the Chicago River, that.
And all the diseases that follow.
Mm-hmm. But it was just mellowed.
Sure.
It wasn't anything revolutionary.
I just like thinking of digestives and the vast array that are available to you would not be my top 30 choices.
Do you like Fernet?
Yeah. See, because with Fernet, it's minty.
It's licoricey.
It's got that licorice, it's got that anise, but it has that like fresh mint aspect to it as well. So I could sip on Fernet. Chartreuse, fucking love chartreuse. Like, that'll do. This is, and I can't wait to hear more about your notes because I feel like the story behind it is kind of like folklore in a lot of like everyone kind of has their own kind of version of how this was created and how this came about.
Right.
Especially Carl Jeppson Malort. And so I am interested to see like what you found versus like maybe what I know or what I've heard and things like that. So that's pretty fun.
Yeah. Well, let's nose it. We're not gonna taste it. We're just gonna put our schnoz in there. What do you get?
Do you want me to be like real about it?
Yeah. I want your honest expert opinion.
I mean, it's definitely like citrus on the nose. It definitely is like very pungent of alcohol.
Yeah.
Go fuck yourself, all right? You're the one that asked for this, asshole.
Well, because it
definitely is herbaceous. Like a lot of like ground, like grass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not like a like thyme, or it's not like that. It's very like earthy herbaceousness.
Yeah.
It has that citrus to it and like that bite, and then of course all that alcohol. What's the proof on it?
It's only 70 proof. It's only 35% ABV, which is like, surprising.
Right, and well, that's why I say gasoline.
Yeah,
like
it
just
burns
comes
a lot more.
through so much.
It's very strong.
Yeah.
Well, the floral, grassy, earthy notes that you're getting is just all from the wormwood. That is all this is flavored with. It like I think the bottle. Jeppson, the bottle says Jeppson's Malort has the aroma and full-bodied flavor of an unusual botanical. Its bitter taste is savored by two-fisted drinkers. So before I learned a lot about Malort, I thought it was multiple botanicals going into here, but it is just wormwood.
That's crazy.
At least as far as they're letting the public know.
Because the recipe is under wraps, right?
As far as I know.
Yeah.
I didn't go to like I didn't like try to find a clone recipe of Malort. I was like, I don't really need to know.
Hey Siri.
So it is all just from wormwood.
Okay.
And that's what's causing this bitter, strong taste. That's what's causing the what's you're getting on the nose.
Yeah.
And most people will associate wormwood with absinthe. Because you're going to get the same flavors from absinthe, but wormwood isn't the thing that will give you make you hallucinate.
Sure.
Which is usually associated with absinthe. That is, and I'm not going to pronounce this correctly, Thujone. What'd you just call me? Thujone.
Oh, okay.
And that is what supposedly leads you to have hallucinations when you drink absinthe. True, pure absinthe.
And like large amounts of it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like I had absinthe once, but it was like the United States version, which I think bans certain ingredients that are supposed to make you hallucinate. The Thujone, probably because no one here could say it.
I love absinthe. Have you had a traditional like absinthe drip?
No, the time I had it, I was already drunk in a hotel in Indianapolis. So
I don't think
it was like straight out of the bottle.
Sad story.
Yeah, so it wasn't a great experience.
Sounds like it
with absinthe, but from that memory, I still prefer Malort
to absinthe.
Yeah. No,
I can't agree with you. I like absinthe. I used to not. So like my grandmother, like when I was little, used to eat Good and Plenty's. Do you remember those?
Oh yeah.
So like that licorice, like anise, and like that bitterness. I was like, disgusting, right? But then growing up and just like having more like digestifs and like amaros and things like that, I just have grown to love it. Plus like having a traditional absinthe drip, like the sugar and the water and the whole thing, like
I think I would appreciate.
I think the experience and then taste. It's also diluted. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like, it's
and
not
you're
just
adding a little bit of sweet sugar.
Exactly. And so I don't know. It's good.
Yeah, I think I would prefer that. I just can't get into licorice and anise.
Okay, the way to say it in French is anise.
Okay.
You'll also hear anise, but I'm not trying to say anise.
You anise.
You're right, exactly. And plus, like the first time I heard of anise was when I worked at the French restaurant. So I was just like, that's how I learned how to say it. Plus, like. Again, I'm not saying anise.
Nice. This is what do you know?
Right.
What do you know about anise?
Right, exactly. Can't wait for that episode to drop.
It's 5 seconds.
Exactly.
It's pronounced anise. Anise. Great.
You got this. Like I have anise.
Great.
You got it.
I don't, but
I have 2.
Oh,
perfect.
So this this beautiful beverage was made originally back in the early 1920s. At least Carl Jeppson's version.
Okay.
So Carl Jeppson, he came over from Sweden. He immigrated to and wound up in Chicago. And he actually lived in what was then the Swedish area of Chicago, which I always thought was historically Avondale. But his apartment was near Clybourne and Division.
Okay.
So completely different area from Avondale. And he was missing a staple of his home country. And it is this alcohol that's called, again, my pronunciation, I don't speak Swedish, is Bask.
Yes.
B-A umlaut S-K.
Perfect.
But you can also call it Besk, because Bask is just an older way of spelling Besk. B-E-S-K.
Okay.
And that translates to bitter. So you're going to be having a bitter liqueur, or liquor. Liquor. And so he was like, you know what? I'm going to make this my own. Like, I can't get it over here. We're going to make it. It's going to be phenomenal. We're all going to get drunk. It's going to be a good time.
Beautiful.
Joke's on him. 1920s prohibition hits.
Wah,
wah. We need to say it like trombone.
Yeah, I'll work on that.
Thanks. And so he's like, well, shit, like, how am I gonna continue manufacturing this product and selling this product? And it was just him making it. It wasn't like this whole big to-do.
Like in a bathtub?
Probably.
Jesus.
Like, can you imagine, like, making, like, just this Malort in your shitty city bathtub?
And especially at that time, the amount of lead in your bathtub, disgusting. Yummy.
And so he was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to trick the feds and the cops. And while I'm selling this out of my briefcase on the street corner, if any of them come by and be like, what are you selling? This is alcohol? And he's like, no. This is medicine. And the cops are like, bullshit. No way. This is alcohol. I can smell it. And Carl, we're on first name basis. Carl is like, bet, try it. Like, give it a try. Like, this will help you. This will cure you. This is medicine. And the cops are like, fine. And, like, it's not like they're going to a speakeasy anyway, like, after their shift.
Right.
So, like, whatever. And so they take a sip of it. And it is such a strong, appalling flavor to them that they're like, oh, no one in their right mind is ever going to drink this recreationally.
Right.
This is a medicine. You are right. Please continue selling it.
Now, here's my question for you. If someone was selling alcohol on the corner of Chicago
Today, okay,
would you buy that alcohol from
I
them?
don't even take the free cans of energy drink that they pass out in the loop. So, like, unless, like, I can make visual contact with, like, the Red Bull car or, like, the Monster van, I'm like, okay, I see it. I see that they're decked out in the gear. I might take it, but I'm still a little cautious.
The fact that people were just like, oh, yeah, I bought this from this guy on the street corner.
Yeah, Carl, he sells it at the corner of the car. This
My
is
good
Carl.
man, Carl.
You don't know Carl?
Right. That sounds awful. What's crazy is you said 1920s, right?
Yeah, prohibition.
So what I had heard, and again, kind of plays into the lore of, was this was back in, like, Columbia Expedition. Like, the Chicago World's Fair.
Yes. So that was the Chicago's World Fair was
1893.
Okay. The first one, because we had two, because that's two of the stars on our flag. I'm pretty sure.
The big one. The big one.
Right.
Which was 1893. I thought the other one was before that. Maybe after that. Because it's before the fire.
The initial flag of Chicago that was in use from 1917 to 1933 had only two stars. And one of them stood for the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, and the other one stood for the World's Columbian Exposition of 1893.
Yes.
The next one was added in 1933, and this represented the Century of Progress Exposition in 33-34. And then
Democratic.
the fourth star commemorates Fort Dearborn. This was added in 1939.
I made that up.
So that's those are all the 4 stars.
When was the fire again?
The fire was in 1871. And the Columbian Expo was 1893.
Really?
Yeah. Well, because like I don't think they would have so many buildings from the Columbian Exposition would still be around today if it was pre-fire. Because like the museums are from the expo.
But that's why not all of them are. See, that's what... wow. Again, time.
Time's fucked.
But I thought the fire was after the Columbia Expedition because we only have X amount of buildings from the expedition due to the fire. Like the Field Museum, like the Museum of Science and Industry, and the Water Tower. Like that is the only reason we have it is because of the Great Chicago Fire. But I 100% could be wrong. I have no evidence.
I think just capitalism destroyed those buildings.
Perfect.
Just blame everything on capitalism.
Done.
Easy.
Welcome to our podcast.
Down with the bourgeoisie.
Okay, so
Nick and
anyway, right. That's the subtitle. Anyway. So again, I thought this was way back in the day. So it's interesting to see, and that what had happened was he started to sell it during the Columbia Expedition as medicinal. So that lines up. Just obviously different for Prohibition versus during the Columbia Expedition.
Yeah, well, I mean, he might have been making it forever ago, totally. Like during the expo. But he at least got away with selling it during Prohibition because totally. He marketed it as medicine.
Right.
And the cops were like, "You're right, this is disgusting."
Right.
So that happened.
Perfect.
Great. So by 1933, Prohibition ends, and so Carl is able to ramp up production, sell it normally, not on the street corner in a briefcase.
And people said, "Yes, we want more."
Yes.
Okay.
Somehow. Well, I mean, Chicago is such like a hub for immigrants and stuff like that. There were so many divisions of the town or the city that I feel like there were a bunch of other Swedish folk that were like, "Yeah, I love this.
We love it.
Love it."
Mm-hmm.
And so 1933 Prohibition ends. Carl actually winds up selling his recipe for his Malort to Bielzoff Productions. And this happens like mid-30s, like just a couple years after Prohibition ends.
Okay. And
that is when the iconic 3-star Chicago flag logo pops up on the bottle.
Okay.
And at this time as well, they would sell every bottle with a stem of wormwood hanging out in there, which is wild to think about. That like you already have such a bitter liquid, and then you're just gonna steep more bitter going on. Like I can't imagine having like a even more bitter alcohol to drink.
Yeah. That's horrifying.
Right? I mean, like, pretty, but gross.
Not necessary. At all is that not necessary.
And so Bielzoff Products owns it. And from there, the ownership of Jeppson's Malort changes a little bit here and there. Someone who had worked for Bielzoff winds up buying it, and that is George Brody.
Okay.
And he runs the company for up until 1999, which is incredible.
Yeah.
But during that time, he moves production to Marsal Distillery.
Okay.
And that lasts for 33 years. So until 60s. Okay. The 1960s. I'm sorry, 1986. I have the date written down exactly. So that lasts until 1986, when Marsal Distillery closes, and that is the last distillery in Chicago to close down. That is to be around. There are no more distilleries from 1986 in Chicago.
Oh, wow.
Until, surprisingly, 2008. So from 1986 to 2008, there aren't any distilleries in Chicago.
And is that CH?
Koval Distillery was the first one to open up in Chicago. And there was a bunch of dumb laws and like a bunch of restrictions that made operating and running a distillery not very profitable for people.
Okay.
So they're like, why do it? Like, there's so many breweries were opening up and whatnot still, but it was the distilleries that didn't open up until 2008 when Koval did.
Yeah.
So that's wild. So 1986, Marcel closes. No more distilleries left. What is Brody going to do? He moves the distillation down to Kentucky for about 2-ish years.
Okay.
And then it takes its long trip down to Florida.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And that's where it is produced for quite some time, up until recently. And distribution is still pretty only centralized to Chicago, because like, who else wants it?
Nobody else, folks. Nobody else.
And then after a while, in 1999, George Brody dies, and he leaves the whole company to his longtime secretary, longtime friend, Patricia Gablick.
Okay.
And she runs the company out of her tiny Lakeview apartment.
Excuse me?
Malort, it hasn't gained any major success. It's not a big brand. Granted, it doesn't have a wormwood stem in it any longer since like 86 or so. But like, maybe that's why
that's definitely what it was.
Mm-hmm. But like, it's not as big of a household item per se as it is now.
Perfect.
And so Patricia's running this. Distillation and production is still in Florida, and it's still just kind of a in the know type of spirit.
Got it.
That is until 2011. In 2011, Sam Meshling.
Okay.
Name might sound familiar.
A little bit.
He brings Malort into the limelight through Twitter posts and Facebook posts. He starts making jokes. It includes it in some routines of his. He loves the flavor, and he's promoting Malort like a son of a bitch. And to the point where like he starts selling unauthorized merch, and is like making T-shirts and just like weird swag.
Sure.
And just like keeps posting about it, and to the point where Patricia's like, "Hey, cut it out."
Right. Right.
And so Patricia's like, "Hey, like, stop! I'm gonna sue you."
Right. Cease and desist.
Please and thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But Patricia and Sam meet up again, first name basis. They're friends.
Look at you.
Patty and Sam.
So quick.
Yeah. Patricia and Sam meet up to talk about, getting sued. Mm-hmm. And they actually become fast friends.
Love that for them.
Right? Enemies to friendlies.
And Devin has a lot of them, as you
so
can
many
tell.
Friends.
Or friendlies, as he apparently calls them.
Instead of being sued, Sam and Patricia become friends.
Yes.
And their friendship reaches such levels that Patricia's like, "Sam, you should come work for me." So Sam winds up joining the Jeppson's Malort team, and
big team? Couldn't possibly be.
At the time, I don't believe so.
It's just Sam and Patricia, actually.
Maybe.
Correct.
And Sam does such a good job that he is actually now and continues to be the director of marketing for Jeppson's Malort.
Oh, wow.
And because of his like guerrilla style marketing tactics and stuff like that, and just really like hitting everyone on the head with Malort. Malort skyrockets in popularity.
Yeah.
Everyone is drinking it. Everyone's asking about it. Everyone's like, hey, have you tried this? Like to every out of towner, to everyone who hasn't tried it, they're like, hey, have you tried this? You've got to try it. Right. It is so good. Super upselling it. And from there, we can jump to 2018. And this is when CH Distillery comes in.
I remember all this. Okay.
Yeah, so this is pretty recent. It's a very exciting thing to happen, where in 2018, CH Distillery buys the Jeppson's Malort brand and recipe from Patricia.
Yeah.
And so under the CH Distillery umbrella, in comes Jeppson's Malort. And in 2019, they bring the production of this liquid back to Chicago. Nice. So now they're making it in-house in the distillery in Chicago. Florida's no longer involved, thank God. And so now we have Malort being made in Chicago once again. It's brought home. It's great. Wow. And
what a full circle.
I know, right? And so one of the things that Sam always liked to do, as many Chicagoans like to do, like we've said, is introduce people to Malort and like see them take their first shot, because there's this trademark thing, there's trending hashtags, of course, the Malort face. And if I try to remember what my first shot of Malort was, and it was it was like in a Chicago. I was visiting Chicago during college, and I was in like an alumni's apartment.
Sure.
And they're like, "Here you go, kid." And I was like,
and he smoked 40 packs a day.
I was like, "Great, thanks." And like, I think at the time, like, my face would have been the same if I had taken any shot, because
sure.
like, you know,
it's alcohol.
It was alcohol. I was younger, and so I wish I could like have seen my face. Like, I think if I would go back in time, I'd be like, I want to go to this exact night. I don't care about saving Lincoln or anything else. Seeing the Hindenburg, I want to see my Malort face.
Horrifying that you would want to see the Hindenburg. You're like, do you know what I want to see? Death and destruction.
It was the second thing that came into my mind.
I could tell.
It's like, I didn't want to go for the old like, stop Hitler. Right, there's enough time travelers doing that. I don't want to get in their way.
Right, exactly.
So the Malort face is this face that you make the first time you take a shot of Malort.
Right.
And one of the complaints Sam has is actually you have to pretty much go outside of the city limits in order to find someone who hasn't tried Malort these days, essentially. Like, yeah, there's tourists, but like it's hard to find a sucker nowadays.
And that's what we like, folks. Mm-hmm. A bunch of suckers.
Subscribe to our Patreon.
Yeah.
And so Patricia herself has described this beautiful drink as a rite of passage. Sam has called it, quote, "It's a weird way of showing affection for people, but it sort of exemplifies who we are as a city. It's rough at first, but you might grow to love it." Which
you might.
I've been drinking it for several years now, and I can say I love it.
Good on ya. I could never. Could fucking never. So when I first like read more about like the history or like back in the day, I understood Carl Jeppson, like a huge cigar smoker, huge drinker.
Yes.
So part of the reason it's so fucking punchy is because he killed his taste buds. And so he's like, I gotta be able to taste this. And that's my impression.
One of the rumors is actually that he did smoke so many cigars, like you said, that he just killed his palate. So he just wanted to taste something.
So maybe what that tells me is that I have to destroy my palate with a bunch of smoke.
Yeah.
And then it'll taste good.
There's only one way to find out.
Here we go. Here's our journey.
I am Nick and Devin.
Episode 4. Perfect.
So some of the highlights of descriptors for Malort that I found were citrus flavored gasoline. A lot of gasoline is very popular. Burnt vinyl car seat condensation. I think is a mouthful.
Can you say that again, please?
Burnt vinyl car seat condensation.
Like I'm holding, so like you're burning a vinyl car seat.
Yeah.
I'm holding a glass to the condensation.
Or like the vinyl is condensate. I don't know how that works. Pencil shavings and heartbreak.
That's just sad.
Right?
That's just like I'm crying on the floor with a bottle of Jeppson's Malort.
I mean, like I have never taken a shot of Malort in with any malice. It's always been in a good experience. Like when I first started drinking it, the experience of drinking it might not have been great, but the moment, the grand experience of being with people you care about and having fun with, that's what's fun about it.
Totally. I was in Seattle for a bit, and went to this Amaro bar, and just like a whole fucking wall of Amaros, right? And I was like, cool. And on the shelf, I saw Jeppson's, and I was just like, I was with someone who's from Seattle, and I was just like, oh shit! I was like,
you got
perfect.
It.
You know what I mean? Like
it's
rite
like
of passage,
instinct.
all of that, just kind of whatever. So I was like, hey, can we just get 2 tastings of the Malort? And the guy
2 tastings,
right, trying to make it sound really nice. And he's like, which one? And I said,
I'm sorry,
that's not possible.
I'm sorry, the Malort.
Correct, exactly. I was like, how dare you ask me that question? But that's where I tasted Basque for the first time.
Okay.
And like and let me tell you, 10,000% better than Carl Jeppson's Malort. Okay.
Yeah.
1,000% better. But it's interesting to still taste that wormwood.
Yeah.
In a very different production of what he was going for. You know, you're like, oh,
definitely.
I get it. My palate's just still not busted.
I've only smoked 1 cigar.
Right.
Right. Well, the interesting thing is that when Sam and Patricia were running Malort together, they had a mission of finding the most distinct and bitter wormwood to use for Malort. And so I wonder if they secured that shipment of wormwood. Like it's a constant thing coming in. And so I wonder if the flavor from when Sam and Patricia were doing it is like harsher than what Carl had originally made. Fair. But then again, they were also steeping some extra wormwood in there. So like I imagined it just got more bitter as it was just absorbing more of that flavor. Because I mean, like you can put jelly beans in vodka and you get like jelly bean vodka, you know?
Well, now have you seen the Peeps?
Yes.
For those of you who don't know, there's a bar, multiple bars. I think just one.
I don't.
Soaking Peeps in Malort. So then you get like, as you would want, of course, varying flavors of
this
Malort.
Like fake ass sugar in Malort. Maybe we just need to do an absinthe drip with Malort. I would try that.
That would be interesting. Please subscribe to our Patreon. That would be very interesting.
Yeah.
I would do that.
Yeah.
Are we trying this?
Yeah, we're going to drink it. We're going to do a little Chicago handshake.
Of course.
You're not going to switch it around?
Sipping. Yeah. You already made me look like a fucking fool trying to get the aromas of it. Asshole.
Well, cheers.
All right, cheers. It just like the issue is that it like sits. It like coats your mouth and it sits in the back, like on the sides. Oh god!
But it pairs great with an old style.
Beautiful with an old style.
Your face is still fucked.
It's still awful.
Oh, it lingers forever.
Do you know what it is? It's the minute that you forever. But the minute that you take it, you're immediately taken back to the first time you had it.
Yeah.
Like I haven't had this in a while, and I shot it, and I was just like, oh, yep,
I had
that's what it is.
I had it like 2 days ago.
It's just it. I always describe it as gasoline poured over a pile of wet leaves. It's just like earthy and
I appreciate horrifying. The wet leaves part. Yeah.
It's not.
It makes me super like salivate a lot too, because I think my mouth is just like, get rid of this.
Please get this out of. Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's not. Oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Good. And so no one should ever have to do this more than once. Never again. Good. Right. Why do I feel like this is going to become like a recording tradition?
I mean, I do it every Friday, so get on my level.
I want to actually. We should do medical tests to see what benefits or consequence you have of doing that.
Well, it's a digestive. So like after dinner on Friday, like settle my stomach, get ready to enjoy my weekend. I'm good to go.
Sure.
I
trust you in that decision that you made.
I wonder if, like, you know how cilantro, like, there are some people that are like, oh, this tastes like soap. And there are people that are like, no, this is delicious. Like, you know, the right people.
Totally.
I wonder if there's something genetic where it's like, oh, Malort's disgusting, or, oh, Malort's pretty good. Or is it truly just like an acquired taste?
I think it's you forcing yourself to believe that you enjoy the taste of Malort.
All right. Well,
that's what I think.
I like it.
Well, thank you for taking us down that journey.
Yeah, no, I think not many people know the story of Malort.
Right.
And I think there are a lot of rumors, and I think a lot of those rumors are true.
Sure.
But I think just knowing that it was sold as a medicine helps it go down.
Totally. Because then you're like, oh.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is why it tastes like that.
Well, and I like that. I think every city probably has its own lore and, you know, folktale and all of that. And so, of course, for us to have this awful alcohol be one of ours.
Your opinion, not fact. Not fact.
Is quite fun.
Yeah.
And it's definitely, and surprisingly, they've turned like the advertising into this so big. I've seen Malort used in cocktails outside of Chicago. You mean outside of the state?
Yeah,
and so that's cool.
It's gotten a lot of popularity across the country, which I know there's a lot of like hardcore people who are like, oh, I should stay in Chicago. Oh, I'm like, dude,
fuck yourself. How about that?
Like the point is to spread what you know and love.
Exactly.
Which is what we're doing here in the What Do You Know podcast.
I like the way you brought that back. Thank you, Devin. Appreciate that.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of What Do You Know with Nick and Devin. I hope you learned a little bit about Carl and his Malort. He's a good guy, maybe.
Probably. I assume. Or devilish.
Yeah, maybe he's just such a dick. And he's like,
gotcha. Assholes.
But yeah, I hope you learned a little bit about Malort and Carl. And I hope you are able to enjoy this wonderful Chicago tradition at some point in your life.
Yeah.
And
like, subscribe, do all the things on all of our channels.
Yeah, you can find us everywhere on socials. We have Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and you'll be able to find this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yes, you can. Thanks, Dev.
Thanks, Nick.
Bye, folks.
Bye.